As you can see, it's still processing. It's about 143 seconds. Hopefully it processes right and doesn't have any errors. It shouldn't have any errors because I got a clip. It was only an 18-second clip of a man talking about the economy and whatnot. And so I'm trying to turn that into Elon Musk. And you see here, you got your source image. Your source is where is the face that you want to use. And I mean, it's so great. It gives you a preview of what it could look like. We just gotta hope that we can get to the end here, which is 533 frames. I should have made it a little bit shorter. That way we could have. It's still got an error for some reason. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can figure out why it's erroring. I don't know why it is erroring here. I got to. Let's see if we can reload it here and see if we can. Yeah, it saved one, but it was all just a white screen. So, and then it got to the end and it started to work,
Look, as soon as I go out of
but the other people in that white screen messed it up. So we gotta figure out what we're doing here. We gotta figure out how to do this. Yeah, so I've been having a lot of errors here. For some reason, it's not working the way we want it to work. Um, so what I'm gonna do is well, let's try it one more time because I changed it to reference instead of one or many. So maybe changing it to reference will get it to uh, work right. No, hold on, it just messed up again. This thing is so finicky, man. I swear to gosh, it's the most finicky AI tool I've ever used. I mean, and you see right here in the preview frames, it changes it to Elon Musk face, but for some reason I hit download and it gives a big old error. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop the session altogether, and try it again. It's being really annoying. I don't really understand why it's being so annoying. Let's go with the uh face like, purple edition. Let's go with the medium version. Maybe we'll see. Maybe hopefully we can get it to work better with that. I'm trying not to waste too much of your credits. I don't want to waste your credits. Um but then again, we got to get this working somehow. So let's wait for this to start up. I'm gonna pause the video while it's all right. So we got it back up. Um, the main thing you want to know is, um, definitely keep it on FaceSwapper. Um, the weight, of course, is how much you want the weight to be. We'll raise that up a little bit. Always go with CUDA. You don't want to go with CPU. Slow. I'm not sure about tensor. It might be better. Um, execution thread count should be 10 to 16. Uh, this I'm actually not sure of. The output path is a pain in the ass. Let's just leave it the same because um, it saves it to images, which is this is one I tried earlier and I don't know why it was white the whole time up till the end where it actually did add Elon Musk's face,
look, as soon as I go out of
but then it messed up. So what we're gonna do, well, let's try Bill Gates this time. Maybe it doesn't like Elon Musk. Um, and then we're gonna go with a video clip. Hi, baby. A video clip that
look,
I
as soon as I go out of
that I've recorded. You need to have a single face. You see how it has added Bill Gates' face here? I mean, you can see in the previews that it works. We just really need to get it to actually, let's go ahead. I'm trying to make sure I got all the settings right. Face texture score, let's raise that up a little bit. You could skip audio if you want to. We don't want to do that. Skip download. Let's not do that. Um, and let's start it and see if we can get it to work this time. I'm praying that it works this time because it's being so annoying. Um, and I'll still be here to guide you as much as I can in using it. I feel like there's better ways to do this. Uh, there's Insight Face, which works really well. Um, but I'm not sure how you could run that on RunDiffusion. You might be able to run it on RunPod. Insight Face seems to be a lot better, but it really just it's more for lip syncs, things like that. Where people are talking. Um, I really don't mess with it too much. I'm more of I make NFTs and things like that. But yeah, hopefully I'm gonna pause this while it's running so we can make well, the video is about over, so I'm gonna have to make a double video. Um oh, it looks like we got an output. Hold on. Let's stop this. All right, so let's see how that goes. It looks like maybe I started it. I'm not sure why it's not running. It should be running. Let's see if it saved it in the. Yep, it saved it. Let's see what that looks like in here. There we go. All right.
So even though I'm rushing this out without many edits to try to
So
get you the
now we got
information as
Bill
soon as
Gates.
possible, let's talk about exactly what's happening, why the stock market has fallen so much, what this means for you, and then what history tells us is most likely to happen next, since a lot of this is unprecedented. Although before we start, as usual, if you appreciate
Yeah. So looks like we got it working. There's going to be a lot more that you need to learn, and I will be sure to help you out as much as I can with this. But yeah, let's see. Uh, every time you hit start right here, it does it again for some reason. So if you hit download, maybe it worked. I don't know. Either way, it saves it in your images FCFC. But while we have a second, let's listen to this one video of this guy who kind of tells a little bit more about it.
You
And
should be using instead of those last two.
well, he uses it
And I'm not
locally,
sure
so
automatically.
let's
Just
skip
need to,
all that.
well, selected.
Okay, so yeah, here we
On a
go.
Mac, if you can, make sure Core ML is selected.
We don't have Core
On an
ML
NVIDIA
anymore.
GPU machine, make sure you have
Instead of
CUDA
Core ML,
selected.
we have
On an AMD GPU machine, make sure you
CUDA.
have, well, whatever option you're supposed to have.
CUDA.
Not sure, to be
You can
honest.
try Tensor or other.
Weirdos.
But let me let him
Again,
talk.
for quick and simple, skip everything else on the left. Now in the middle, you'll drag an image to source. Or you can click on and find your file. This is the image you want the person in the new image to look like.
Correct.
Below that is the target. Drag or click and find your image or video that you want to change the person's face from into the source images. At this point, if your image or video only has one obvious person in it that you want to swap, you should be able to click the start button below in the middle and then wait for the output and done.
Don't do too many people,
that at times can be literally all there is to it. Now, what the heck is everything else?
Yeah.
Let's look at the execution providers. I already mentioned it, but just make sure you have Core ML, CUDA, or whatever it is for AMD selected. Otherwise, renders will take much longer.
Listen to CUDA.
The execution thread count is based on the amount of VRAM you have. So this depends on the GPU that you have. I have a 16GB M1 Mac Mini, so I set it to 16, and that seems to work closest to the optimal speed, but because it's shared memory on Apple Silicon, Anywhere from about 10 to 16 gets
See, he's
roughly the
using
same
Apple
results.
silicon. We're not using
Apparently, with dedicated graphics cards, you can go with a 2-to-1 ratio. So if it's a 16 gigabyte card, you can go with 32 threads. The execution queue count I don't touch. Most people will probably keep that at 1. I would only try increasing it if you are already getting really good speeds. But try it out with a small file and test it for yourself. Max memory is there more as a limiter. Leave it at 0 and it will use as much memory as it can. Otherwise, if you need a certain amount of memory available for other tasks on your computer, you can change it to suit your needs. The output path is something that I wish worked a little bit better. You can see that by default it has a very weird path. This is where any videos and images you create will automatically reside. You can change it to whatever directory you like. However, I ran into a problem where it doesn't seem to like any spaces in the path. And if it did have any spaces, it would fail if I tried to output anything. The other problem that I have with it is that it doesn't save the path that you change it to. So the next time you come into FaceFusion, it will be set back to its default. I just don't change it, and I make sure I have easy access to the Finder for that directory. On a Mac, in order to see that directory, you need to show hidden files. To do this, type Command-Shift, and again to hide them. Once visible, you can easily find the VAR or VAR directory in your user directory and go from there. On Windows and Linux, I'm not sure what the deal is. Sorry, but it's actually probably just easier to get to.
Yeah, it is.
The options are pretty simple concepts. Keep FPS will keep your output file to its original target's frame rate instead of converting it to the default 25 FPS. Keep temp will be kept in the default folder, therefore no longer temporary. Skip audio will strip the audio from your target.
Yeah, we don't
well,
have those
technically,
options.
it just won't add it back in when it's creating the output file.
No, this is 2.6.
And skip download is kind of a weird one that has little use, in my opinion. When you switch to a particular FaceSwap model or a Face Enhancer model, it has to download it the first time. If you have this selected, it won't download it. At least that's how I've come to understand it. It's something I've never had a use for, but maybe useful in some case that I don't understand. Maybe if it's corrupt or something. For the rest of the features, we're going to need to actually show what is going on. So I'm going to put in a target. I'll use a short clip from a Tyler Hubbard video. With that in now, you can see a ton of stuff lighting up and change. So let's start from the top right with the preview window. This is probably the most important window as it's where you can see any and all changes before rendering out your final picture or video. Just below that is the preview frame slider. It's currently on frame 0, but you can slide it around to a different number to see a different specific frame in the preview window. Switching between which frame it is on is very useful when you have multiple cuts or scenes within a single video for reasons I'll explain with the options below. First, with trim frame start and end, by default they'll be set to the first and last frame of your entire clip. And if you don't change it, it will render the entire video when you hit start. But if you only wanted one portion of the video, you use the preview frame above to see what frames you actually want to render out, and then set the start and end to those. Say I only wanted to show one quick cut of Terry Crews dancing. I can see that at frame 24, it starts this cut, and then it ends at frame 40. So I can just easily change the trim frame start and the trim frame end to 24 and 40, and that way it'll only render out that one little cut of 16 or so frames. Under Face Selector mode, you can see there are 3 options: Reference, 1, and Mini. With Reference selected, you can see the reference face just below that shows a bunch of faces. To show how this works, we're going to need to bring in our source image. It seemed appropriate to use Robert Downey Jr. for this example.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
You might not see anything happen at first, and that could be because it's trying to put the face on someone that was in the beginning of the clip, but not in this shot. So what you want to do now with reference turned on is select the face that you want to swap Robert Downey Jr. onto. You can just as easily pick someone else from the references. Because the preview is such a low resolution, it can be difficult to see how much is actually changing until you render it out. While still using a reference, let's look at the reference face distance. I'm not really sure why it's called distance, but what it does is find faces that are either less or more like the image you chose. If you turn it up too high, it will start to think everyone is your reference and change multiple faces.
That's if you're using multiple.
But if you turn it down too low, it will think it's a different person just between frames or scenes with different lighting when it's still the same person. So you'll get flashing in and out if it's close or just shots that aren't changed at all. Usually the default works great, but you'll find reasons to play with it a bit depending on your video. After reference is 1. This will always only pick one face from the entire video. The trick is getting it to pick the one you want. Now, if you only have one person in the entire video, then it's going to be pretty simple.
Yeah.
If you have 2, 3 maybe, still pretty easy.
Reference, just to be
but when you have more faces in the video, especially when you get pretty high up, this can become a huge PETA. But if you skip down to the face analyzers, which they spell incorrectly here, you have a few tools to try and pick the one you want. And these analyzers work for reference and mini also. First with order, given the first 2 options, you'd either get the person on the far right or the far left of the picture. And it's for the first frame of your video.
So there's a lot of
if it's someone not in the first frame, good luck.
Really learn this.
If we wanted to pick Terry Crews, top to bottom would work, and with large to small. I have no idea.
Alright, so here we got another one that I did. Oh, hold on, that's the same one. Another one that I did. We did Elon Musk. It finally worked with Elon.
So even though I'm rushing this out without many edits to try to get you the information as soon as possible, let's talk about exactly what's happening, why the stock market has fallen so much, what this means for you, and then what history tells us is most likely to happen next, since a lot of this is unprecedented. Although before we start, as usual, if you appreciate...
Yeah, I think it still looks good though. But yeah, let's continue listening to what he has to say.
To his left or right,
for just a minute.
I don't see how this would work.
The
age analyzer, it's pretty obvious. But it will allow you to narrow down if you have a range of obvious age differences within the video. If I quickly go back to reference, you can see that it accurately portrays them all as adults. No children, teens, or seniors. The last one is gender. I shouldn't have to explain this one as it's the same as age, but, well, gender, male or female. However, this one doesn't seem to work as well. Just to show what I mean, if I choose male, there's only one image and that looks like it's a female, and for some reason, that's it for reference. If I put the female,
buggy, but I mean,
for some reason it thinks all of them, including Terry Crews, is a female.
Deepfakes or whatever you want to use it for.
So back to the face selector mode. Let's check many. What this one is going to do is use your source image on as many faces as it can make out well enough, and you can use the analyzers for exclusions. 99% of the time, I'm using reference mode and almost never use the analyzers. There are rare occasions where I
made a deep fake of Elon Musk talking about,
So even though I'm rushing this out without many edits to try to get you the information as soon as possible, let's talk about exactly what's happening, why the stock market has fallen so much, what this means for you, and then what history tells us is most likely to happen next, since a lot of this...
I mean, I think this is basically what you're after.
So even though I'm rushing this out without many edits to try to get you the information as soon as possible, let's talk about exactly what's happening, why the stock market has...
We got Elon talking. So yeah, I think that's about it for everything. I'll go ahead and let this play.
Find them useful, but not too often.
2.5 minutes.
The last thing on the right side that isn't part of the masking is the face detector model section. I've always left this on Retina Face. However, with Retina Face selected, it makes the next part, the face detector size, absolutely worthless. If you try anything other than the default 640 by 640, it will come up as an error. If you switch it to UNet,
We don't want errors.
and then switch it around, it will allow you to change the size. I haven't played around with this much, but what it seems to be is something that helps you select faces when they're too close to the edge or cut off. Normally I wouldn't use it, but if you can't seem to get a face selected, try this out. As for the face detector
And like I
score,
said, this guy is using a much older
though I don't use
model,
this too often,
so I mean things
it
are a
can
little
be
bit
useful.
different.
This is usually good set to the default center,
If you
but this
want,
is
I
how
can try
tight
to
or loosely
teach you
determines
some more
what a
about the
face
newer
is
version.
within your image or video.
Might have to do another
Turn it
package
down a
for
bit
that
to try to
because
recognize a face that wasn't
it
all that
takes quite a bit of
obvious,
time to do this.
but go too low, and it will think all random things are faces. Turn it up,
Yeah, you don't want that.
and you'll get fewer faces, which may be a good thing, as the ones it doesn't pick up still probably wouldn't have had much of a good output anyway. But go too high, and it won't pick up anything. Now let's switch back over to the very first thing we looked at for a half second earlier. Frame processors.
Okay, let's look at that.
FaceSwapper is what you're going to want to use almost all of the time for obvious reasons. This gives you the option of 5 different FaceSwapper models. By default, it's set to InSwapper 128, and it's a pretty good one. In fact,
about 20
maybe the
seconds
best
in,
option?
It's going to be the last video.
I was going to let you figure it out what is
Please,
best on
I
your
hope I
own,
felt
but
you.
instead,
If not,
I ran a
we
test
can
of
do
each
some
one
more.
to show you what they all look like with the basic settings. Here you can see that blend swap looks pretty bad, and it took